We are now talking to 33-year-old vet. Yes, a 33-year-old vet. Mr. Umpire himself, Dale Scott. What's going on, Dale?
What's up, guys? Glad to be here.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you. How are you and your family doing since COVID?
Good. We tried to do a remodel down in Palm Springs. We have a house there. I'm in Portland, and it started December of 2019. Everything was fine. Then it was supposed to be done May of 2020, and of course got done May of 21 because of COVID, and shot that back about another year. But no, everything went well, and we're doing fine.
So why don't we get into the MLB? Before we do that, let's get into your career. What made you start being an umpire, not only in the MLB, but becoming an umpire? And how is it that you get into the MLB as an umpire?
Well, the reason I became an umpire, I started umpiring when I was 15, growing up in Eugene, Oregon. I loved baseball growing up. I just was my favorite sport. My grandfather happened to live in LA. He was a Dodger fan. That made me a Dodger fan. So that was how that all started. And I was pretty confident I would be the first baseman for the Dodgers. Then I started playing baseball. And it was rather obvious that if you can't hit, run, throw, or field, you're probably not going to be playing first baseman for anybody. So trying to stay in baseball, what could I do at 15 years old? And a friend of mine said, try umpiring. You make some, some coin in the summer. And I thought, I was on the bench a lot. I watched the umpires. I could probably maybe do this. So that's how I got started. To get into professional baseball, you have to go to umpire school, which I did in 1981 when I was 21 years old. And the rest is history.
So how have the games changed since when you first started in 1985 to when you all 30 years? Like, what are the biggest differences of what you've had to look for and like the way the game was played?
Well, we've changed a lot, both internally as far as when I came into the league until the year 2000. Basically, the inmates ran the asylum. The umpires did. The structure of MLB just wasn't that strong, quite frankly, as far as with us. That all changed in 2000. Everything went under the commissioner's office. We got rid of the league presidents. We combined the umpire staffs. They started working American and National League, and baseball went extremely corporate. It changed basically overnight, the working conditions and all kinds of stuff. And for the most part for the better, but some of it maybe not so much. But as far as on the field changes, well, there's been a ton, for probably my first, 20 years. Well, certainly again, until about 2000, there was rarely, if ever, a rule change. You would rarely have a rule change from year to year, maybe a interpretation of a rule or something, but it was pretty rare. And starting in 2000, as we went forward, we've had rule changes and things, constantly, all the time. Obviously, a big difference from when I was first starting is a replay. I mean, that's a huge difference, and it's quite frankly one I think it's good. I think replay is something that has made the game better, and I think I'm happy with that. Now there's other things on the horizon with the automated strike zone and stuff that I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but that would be probably the biggest change from when I started in the mid 80s.
We are talking to 33-year-old vet umpire Dale Scott. Dale, the 90s really transitioned with the strike. Everybody remembers in 94, 95 when the strike came around and baseball was falling apart and everybody thought it was just in turmoil. Then it came back and Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, a lot of people believe, saved the game of baseball, and Bud Selig was behind them, all the stuff that was going on. And then steroids came out later, a couple of years later, and everybody was talking about it, and then the politicians got involved with it, the Senate got involved with it. What were your thoughts to baseball when the strike was over and Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa really took over the game?
I was an American League umpire, so I wasn't on the field involved with that. Obviously, I was in the game at that time. And there is a lot of truth to the fact that did help bring baseball back. That did help bring people to help them forget about the business side of the game, which was the ugly strike and having no playoffs and World Series that year. And it was a very much a low point for Major League Baseball. And, the Sosa McGwire home run derby, what was that, 98?
98. Yep.
Yeah.
It was 98. Yep.
And the strike, we came back from the strike in 95. So, it was sluggish a few years. The attendance was down. People were angry. They were upset about what had happened. People, as you know, you devote your soul into the game that under the team that you like, and you're like a roller coaster when they win and they lose, and it's the whole thing. I mean, I'm that way with the Oregon Ducks. Okay, so I understand what's going on there. But it took a couple seasons, and it was gradually, very slowly, and then that home run 98 year came about. And I think it was the turning point as far as getting back on the plus side for baseball and getting back to going the right direction. Although that did spur the whole issue with steroids and that ugly part too. That finally baseball worked their way through that also.
So one of the big things later in your career that I know you've mentioned and I've also read about with you was the concussions that you had towards the end of your career. You had to retire in 2017 because of that. And also a big issue with players as well in Major League Baseball. We've seen other sports address that more with the NFL and the NHL a lot more. Do you think baseball has to do that too? And what do you think are the best ways to do that?
Well, I think baseball, early 2000s, baseball was really kind of proactive with head blows and concussions. And, part of that, I'm sure, was they can read. They saw what was happening, across the street at the NFL offices, and so they were pretty proactive as far as trying to find out more, trying to have protocols in place, and so I applaud them for that. When I had 4 major head blows and concussions, the last one took me out in April of 2017. I had whiplash also, that particular one. It was a lot of fun. But I learned a lot about concussions. I learned a lot about how they vary. The symptoms vary. They could be, one of my concussions, light was very, I was in a dark cave for the first week or so because light was an issue for me. The next time I was concussed, light was not a problem, but it was loud sounds. My dog would bark and I'd go through the roof, all kinds of different symptoms and stuff that concussions can have. The thing that really what baseball did is finally in the early 2000s took it seriously and understood that this really is a serious issue, especially when you have repeated blows throughout a career, and especially if you're not completely healed from a concussion. Because that's, if you're concussed and you get concussed again before you're healed, it's not twice as bad, it's exponentially as bad. And so, it was very key to, if somebody is concussed, to keep them off the field until they have come back. And so they got real serious with that. You guys, I'm sure you remember when you played years ago. I mean, you get hit, hey kid, you seeing stars? And it was like a kind of a joke almost, and I mean, there were times when I was in the minor leagues, and, my first 15 years in the big leagues before we got serious with this stuff, there were probably, I know there were times that I was hit during the game that I probably should have come out of the game, but we just didn't do that then unless you were unconscious, basically. So there's been a lot of research, a lot of, positive movement by baseball. Like I said, I think they've been very proactive, and now just going forward, continue with that and continue with the research.
Now, Dale, there's a lot of umpires in the MLB that a lot of people don't like. And Angel Hernandez is a guy that people talk about every single week. Every time I talk to an ex-major league player or a player that plays in the league right now or plays in the minors that know Angel Hernandez, he's one of the more hated umpires in professional sports. I'm sure you know Angel. Tell us a little bit about Angel that people could get to know that don't know about him.
Well, Angel, we went to umpire school the same year. We went to different schools, but the same year. And when he was hired in the National League. And in fact, he was hired. His number in the National League was number 5. Mine, the American League, was number 5. When we merged in 2000, because I had seniority, I got to keep 5, and he went to 55. And when I retired in 2018, was officially retired, he took number 5 back. So he's got my number. But look, Angel has been a punching bag. There's no doubt about it. Sometimes the way things are perceived, the way a guy on the field argues or deals with a manager or a player can be perceived, maybe not necessarily the way it really was, but the perception is you don't care, or you're laughing at the guy, or you're making fun of the guy. Angel's got one of the biggest hearts I've ever seen, one of the nicest guys I've ever known, and he does care. He cares a lot about what he does. Guys, there's a overall problem. It's not just Angel. These on-screen strike zones.
Yeah, it's horrible.
They're not our friend. I a couple months ago on my Facebook page, I showed the exact same pitch. It was a St. Louis at the Mets game. The St. Louis broadcast and the Mets broadcast, obviously separate broadcasts. 3-2 pitch. The Mets broadcast had it as ball 4. The St. Louis broadcast, same pitch, had it as strike 3. So that trying to show people that those on-screen zones are not 100% accurate. They're not the gospel. But I get it. People see that. That's what they see. That's their perception. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. But it's really been tough. For the umpires, because a lot of times, these pitches are just off the line on their screen, and he calls that a strike. Oh, that's outside. That's way outside. No, it really isn't. It's pretty, but again, trying to convince people that, that's going to be a tough thing. But the point is, we umpires get painted, I think, sometimes unfairly with some of the stuff that's going on with the strike zone and with the screen stuff. But again, I'm not here to complain or cry. I mean, I understand the job of umpiring. We're the bad guys. We're the guy the scapegoats. We get all that. It's just sometimes we've lost a little perspective, I think, as fans and as watching this, that a 94 mile an hour fastball, it's got a little movement on it that is this far off, and the perception is, well, he missed out by a mile. That could have been, even if it was a miss, by a quarter of an inch in a 3-dimensional strike zone with the ball moving and whatever. I mean, it's we're not perfect, but we're pretty good. And sometimes I think we're painted in such a way that we're just we don't even know what we're doing.
I have family members all the time. I told, don't necessarily judge the TV box on everything. Watch late.
Well,
spin
stop.
and late
You
movements.
hate Angel Hernandez. You always complain about him.
You complain about
but
I've
him all
also
the
told
time.
people about the TV box too.